The relentless hum of the servers was a constant, almost maddening companion for Alex. It was a low, vibrational thrum that permeated every corner of his cramped garage, now more lab than garage, an improvised temple to innovation and sheer, unyielding will. The air, thick with the metallic tang of soldering fumes, the acrid scent of stale coffee, and the subtle, lingering aroma of instant ramen clung to him like a second skin. Dust motes danced in the solitary shaft of light piercing the grime-streaked window, illuminating the controlled chaos of his world. Tangled wires, half-eaten energy bars, discarded circuit boards, and the persistent glow of 3 oversized monitors, casting an eerie, pale light on his worn, determined face. This was Innovate Core, his startup, a defiant whisper of ambition in a world that only amplified booming pronouncements. Alex wasn't just working, he was living within this digital crucible. His clothes, perpetually rumpled, bore faint smudges of grease and solder, physical marks of his tireless dedication. Sleep was a luxury, a fleeting acquaintance he rarely indulged. Meals were utilitarian, consumed quickly, often cold, his focus never truly breaking from the lines of code scrolling across his screens. He was a lone alchemist, tirelessly transmuting abstract algorithms into tangible breakthroughs, fueled by an unwavering belief in a vision few others could comprehend. The silence of the garage, broken only by the whirring of cooling fans and the rhythmic click of his keyboard, was a stark mirror of his isolation. There were no grand corporate offices here, no bustling teams, just Alex and the relentless pursuit of an idea. He was an anomaly in the fast-paced, high-stakes world of tech, a quiet craftsman in an era of flashy titans. He'd often lose track of time, the days bleeding into nights, marked only by the shifting quality of the light filtering through the grimy panes, or the gradual chilling of his coffee mug. His only true company was the intricate dance of data across his screens, the silent conversations he held with lines of code, the complex problems that unfolded and re-knitted themselves within his own brilliant mind. His latest obsession, the culmination of years of tireless work, was a proprietary AI algorithm, codenamed Genesis. It was an ambitious, almost audacious undertaking, a predictive analytics engine that went beyond mere data aggregation. Genesis was designed not just to analyze existing trends but to anticipate future market shifts with uncanny accuracy, to identify obscure correlations, and to understand the subtle, almost subconscious currents of consumer behavior. It was meant to be revolutionary, not just for financial markets, but potentially for countless other sectors, from logistics to resource management. Yet, despite its nascent power, it remained a phantom, a whisper of potential, confined to the digital boundaries of his garage, largely unknown and certainly unproven to the larger world. The sheer scale of his ambition, contrasted with the humble surroundings, created a dramatic irony that only Alex, in his singular focus, seemed unaware of. He was building a colossus with tools designed for tinkering, a digital masterpiece in a forgotten corner. One particularly grueling Tuesday, just as the first faint hint of dawn began to paint the sky a bruised purple, a soft ping from his old battered laptop broke the rhythmic drone. It was an email, not from an investor or a supplier, but from a university student, Sarah Chen. Her subject line was simple, almost hesitant. Inquiry about open-source components. Alex, his eyes heavy-lidded, clicked it open. Sarah explained with an embarrassing vulnerability that she was an aspiring engineering student at the local technical university, struggling to afford the high-grade components necessary for her final-year project. A complex robotics arm designed to assist patients with severe motor impairments. Her scholarship barely covered tuition and basic living expenses, and the cost of the specialized microservos, haptic feedback sensors, and advanced microcontrollers was prohibitive, far beyond her reach. She was brilliant, her project proposal brimming with innovative ideas, but cruel economic realities were forcing her to consider abandoning her dream, to settle for a far simpler, less impactful design that wouldn't truly challenge her potential. A sigh escaped Alex's lips, a mix of profound empathy and a familiar bitter pang of his own perpetual financial tightrope walk. Innovate Core was perpetually teetering on the brink of insolvency, every penny stretched thin, every investment a desperate gamble that could either launch them into the stratosphere or send them crashing down. He could barely afford his own operational costs, let alone upgrade his outdated equipment. Yet, as he read Sarah's plea, he saw a vivid reflection of his younger self, that raw, unadulterated passion for creation, hampered by cruel, unyielding economic realities. He remembered the countless doors slammed in his face, the dismissive laughter, the skepticism, the casual cruelty with which his own early dreams had been brushed aside by those with power and influence. A fleeting image of his own small, cluttered workbench from years ago, lit by a single bare bulb, flashed through his mind, a silent echo of youthful ambition struggling against overwhelming odds. Without a moment's hesitation, the internal conflict brief and decisive, Alex opened a separate browser window. He logged into a discreet online components retailer, one he often used for Innovate Core's more obscure, hard-to-find technological needs. With practiced ease, his fingers flying across the keyboard, he ordered a complete set of the specialized servo motors, microcontrollers, and advanced sensors Sarah had listed, opting for the highest quality available, ensuring her project would have the best possible chance of success. He bypassed the anonymous delivery option, carefully selecting a standard, untraceable shipping method directly to her university dorm, ensuring no return address, no name that could be traced back to him. Then, with a worn pen, he scrawled a brief anonymous note on a discarded circuit diagram for Genesis, a piece of his own intricate work. Innovation knows no financial barriers. Your ideas matter. Keep building. The world desperately needs your vision, your ingenuity. Believe in the unseen potential, in the quiet power of your own mind. He folded it carefully, a silent manifesto, and slipped it into the package. The small act a quiet rebellion against the cutthroat world he inhabited, a silent vow to foster the very spirit of creation and collaboration he clung to so fiercely. It was a small, almost insignificant act in the grand scheme of things, a mere drop in the vast ocean of corporate indifference, but for Alex, it was a profound affirmation of his core values, a stark contrast to the relentless, predatory pursuit of profit that defined his industry. He was not just building technology, he was building hope, one unseen act of kindness at a time. This was his save the cat moment, a quiet display of character that few would ever witness, yet it defined the man behind the machine, solidifying his inherent goodness and his dedication to principles beyond mere gain. Amidst the organized chaos of his desk, amidst the tangle of wires and half-finished prototypes, an old, tarnished silver frame held a grainy, sepia-toned photograph. It was a picture of a younger Alex, perhaps a decade ago, his face intensely focused, eyes burning with a zeal that had since been muted by weary lines and the weight of countless setbacks. He stood beside a complex, futuristic-looking device, a pulsating lattice of light and wires that hummed with an almost ethereal energy, in a lab setting that hinted at advanced high-security research, far beyond the capabilities of any university or public institution. The device itself seemed to defy conventional engineering, its components arranged in patterns that suggested a deep, almost mystical understanding of quantum mechanics and energy transference. The symbol, barely discernible on the breast pocket of the pristine white lab coat he wore, was a stylized, intertwined series of abstract geometric patterns, a complex fractal that seemed to shift and reform upon closer inspection, like a living mathematical equation. It was a symbol he had long tried to forget, a remnant of a past life, a different kind of ambition, shrouded in layers of secrecy and profound, unspoken truths. A chapter of his existence he had deliberately sealed away. He would often find himself staring at it for long moments, his eyes distant, lost in a profound contemplation that stretched beyond the confines of his garage. A flicker of something ancient and powerful, a repressed memory of immense capability, would stir within him. This photograph, a relic of a forgotten era, was the silent, subtle seed of mystery, a hint of the true depth of Alex's capabilities, a power far beyond what the humble garage and worn clothes suggested. He was not just a startup founder, not merely a brilliant coder. He was a weaver of digital realities, a master of unseen patterns, a truth he had deliberately, meticulously, chosen to conceal from a world that had once failed to understand, or perhaps had chosen to exploit him. He carried the weight of that past, its knowledge and its burdens within him, a silent, internal hum, far more complex than the servers around him. The simplicity of his current life was a carefully constructed shield, a deliberate anonymity chosen after a profound, unspoken disillusionment. He had chosen peace over power, obscurity over recognition, but the echoes of his past, the true extent of his genius, lay dormant, waiting for the right catalytic moment to awaken. The air in the Grand Innovations Expo Hall buzzed with a frenetic energy, a palpable blend of ambition, anticipation, and the faint metallic scent of ozone from countless glowing screens. Thousands of industry leaders, venture capitalists, and tech journalists, dressed in an almost uniform of sleek, expensive suits, navigated the labyrinthine aisles. The collective hum of their conversations was punctuated by bursts of enthusiastic pitches and the rhythmic clicks of cameras. This was the Mecca of tech, the annual pilgrimage where titans unveiled their latest marvels, and where hopeful startups desperately vied for a sliver of attention. For Alex, it was a crucible, a make-or-break moment for InnovateCore, a chance to finally elevate his creation from the confines of his garage into the dazzling, competitive arena of global tech. His booth, tucked away in a less prominent corner of the sprawling exhibition floor, was humble compared to the monolithic, gleaming installations of the industry giants. A simple banner proclaimed, InnovateCore, predicting tomorrow, today. On a modest pedestal, a sleek, minimalist display showcased Genesis, Alex's AI. It wasn't flashy. It didn't have holographic projections or interactive robots. Its power lay in its quiet, almost uncanny ability to process and predict, a feat he believed spoke for itself. He stood beside it, an island of quiet intensity amidst the clamor, his gaze earnest, ready to explain the intricacies of his life's work to anyone who would listen. He pored over the data on his tablet, making last-minute adjustments, reviewing the intricate algorithms that powered his vision. Despite the daunting scale of the event, a fragile hope flickered within him, a belief that Genesis, with its pure, unadulterated brilliance, would cut through the noise. Then, the murmurs swelled, coalescing into a wave of hushed excitement. A ripple of anticipation spread through the crowd, drawing all eyes towards the main stage, a colossal edifice of LED screens and pulsating light. Victor Sterling, the imperious CEO of Nexus Tech, strode onto the stage. Sterling was not merely a CEO, he was a titan, a predatory force of nature in human form. His presence alone commanded attention, radiating an aura of untouchable power and effortless superiority. His tailored suit seemed to shimmer with an almost liquid confidence, and his perfectly coiffed silver hair caught the stage lights, making him appear almost ethereal, a god descended to bestow wisdom upon mere mortals. Nexus Tech, his empire, was a colossal, ubiquitous presence in every facet of the digital world, its tentacles reaching into AI, robotics, telecommunications, and more. They were the established order, the insurmountable Goliath to Alex's struggling David. Sterling began his keynote address with a voice that was both smooth and commanding, honed by years of boardrooms and media appearances. He spoke of Nexus Tech's unparalleled dominance, of their visionary leadership, and unprecedented breakthroughs. His words were a carefully constructed symphony of self-aggrandizement, designed to mesmerize and intimidate. He spoke of AI, the very field Alex had poured his life into, as a domain only for the truly powerful, the well-funded, the established. True innovation, Sterling declared, his voice resonating through the vast hall, requires vast resources, immense teams, and a legacy of proven success. It is not something achieved by amateurs tinkering in garages. A polite, yet dismissive chuckle rippled through the audience. Alex felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. He knew where this was going. Then, Sterling paused, his eyes, sharp and predatory, sweeping across the audience, landing with chilling precision on Alex's humble booth. A thin, disdainful smile, barely perceptible, touched his lips. The projector behind him flickered, briefly displaying a grainy, almost mocking image of InnovateCore's modest logo, then a deliberately blurry, pixelated snapshot of Alex's garage-turned-office, A photo clearly taken without permission, a chilling invasion of his private space. The image was on screen for less than a second, but it was enough. The message was clear. "We hear whispers, of course," Sterling continued, his voice dripping with condescension, "of ambitious, albeit naive ventures. Little projects with grand aspirations, perhaps best left as hobbies. They call themselves Innovate Core, I believe. Their flagship product, a predictive analytics engine. We've taken a look." He scoffed, a sound amplified to fill the entire hall, laced with an almost theatrical contempt. "Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it's a child's toy, a crude approximation of what true, cutting-edge AI can achieve. Their models are simplistic, their data sets negligible. It's barely more sophisticated than a glorified spreadsheet. A diversion, perhaps, for those with too much time and too little practical understanding of the market. It poses no threat. No real innovation comes from such amateur operations." The words, delivered with such casual cruelty, struck Alex like a physical blow. The polite chuckles in the audience grew louder, morphing into open, derisive laughter. His face, usually a mask of quiet determination, flushed crimson, then paled. It wasn't just a business slight. It was a public humiliation, a personal insult aimed directly at the heart of his vision, his years of tireless work, his very dignity. Sterling's disdainful words, dripping with a condescension that bordered on outright malice, shredded the fragile hope he had carried into the expo. He saw the glances, the pitying looks, the dismissive shrugs from attendees who had moments ago seemed curious. He felt the weight of every late night, every financial sacrifice, every moment of self-doubt crash down upon him. The words "child's toy" echoed in his mind, searing themselves into his consciousness. A primal urge to retreat, to vanish, to abandon the public stage and retreat into the comforting anonymity of his garage, surged within him. The familiar grip of old insecurities, specters from a past he had tried so desperately to leave behind, tightened around his chest. He felt the cold, creeping paralysis of fear, the suffocating desire to simply disappear. For a long, agonizing moment, he was once again that young, ridiculed visionary, his ideas dismissed, his potential unseen. He considered packing up his modest booth, disappearing from the expo floor, vanishing into the bustling anonymity of the city, abandoning the dream that had consumed his life. But then, a different emotion ignited, a burning ember deep within his chest. He thought of his small, dedicated team, Lena, his lead developer, who had trusted him implicitly, sacrificing stable careers to join his precarious venture, the junior engineers who believed in his vision, despite the long hours and meager pay. He thought of Sarah Chen, the student he'd helped, and the quiet satisfaction of seeing her ambition rekindled. The sting of Sterling's condescension, the blatant injustice of his words, coupled with the thought of letting down those who believed in him, ignited a raw, unyielding resolve. This wasn't just about his ego, it was about the integrity of his work, the potential of Genesis, and the quiet dignity of those who truly innovated without fanfare. He remembered the initial spark, the unshakable belief that had started it all, and the silent promise he had made to himself years ago. Never to let the powerful crush the potential of the unseen. The dormant beast within him, the weaver, stirred, its eyes opening slowly. The urge to flee transmuted into a burning desire to fight, to prove them all wrong, not with words, but with undeniable, irrefutable truth. The first crushing consequence of Sterling's public denouncement arrived swiftly, with brutal efficiency. Before Sterling had even finished his smug address, Alex's phone vibrated. It was an email from Aurora Capital, a prestigious venture capitalist group that had been in advanced negotiations with Innovate Core, promising a lifeline of crucial funding. The subject line was stark. Investment update. Innovate Core. His heart plummeted. He opened it, his fingers trembling. The message was brief, cold, and utterly devastating. Due to unforeseen market sensitivities and concerns over long-term viability, Aurora Capital has decided to withdraw from all pending negotiations with Innovate Core, effective immediately. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. No explanation, no opportunity to argue, just a clinical, impersonal dismissal. This wasn't just a setback, It was a crushing blow, a death knell that threatened Innovate Core's very existence. The promised funding had been the oxygen his startup needed to survive, to scale, to finally move out of his garage. Without it, the future looked bleak, perhaps impossible. The path back to his quiet, anonymous life in the garage was no longer an option. It was a forced retreat, a surrender. He was cornered, his back against the wall, stripped of his last remaining hope for a peaceful ascent. The humiliation, the financial ruin, the crushing weight of failure, it was all designed to break him. But as he read the cold words, something in Alex hardened. This wasn't just a rejection. It was an act of aggression, a deliberate attempt to destroy him. The line had been crossed. He was no longer just a struggling founder. He was a warrior on the brink, forced to fight for survival. There was no easy retreat, no turning back. The point of no return had been reached, and he would either rise to the challenge or be consumed by the overwhelming tide. He looked at the now empty, pristine screens of his Genesis display, a potent symbol of its unseen power, and a silent vow solidified within him. He would not break. He would not yield. The cold, sterile efficiency of Nexus Tech's main cybersecurity hub was usually a bastion of controlled silence, punctuated only by the soft click of keyboards and the faint hum of high-end servers. It was a domain where Lena Petrova, Alex's lead developer and a brilliant but conventionally trained programmer, felt profoundly out of her depth. Her expertise lay in elegant code and robust architecture, not the shadowy world of digital warfare. But on this particular Wednesday morning, the hub, a borrowed space at a tech incubator, was a chaotic tableau of flashing red alerts and a palpable sense of dread. A sophisticated cyber attack, silent and insidious, had pierced Innovate Core's seemingly modest defenses, crippling its internal R&D servers and threatening to erase years of meticulously accumulated research data for Genesis. It wasn't a brute force assault, it was a surgical strike, designed to paralyze and destroy. Lena's face was pale, streaked with exhaustion. Her fingers, usually so nimble and confident on the keyboard, now hovered uselessly. Their standard firewall, their intrusion detection systems, all the conventional digital safeguards, were utterly useless. The malicious code seemed to flow around them, an invisible current dissolving their digital infrastructure from within. "It's not just a hack, Alex," Lena murmured, her voice tight with panic, staring at the cascading error messages on her screen. It's like a ghost in the machine. It bypasses everything. It's too clean, too precise. Someone knows our architecture intimately. We're bleeding data, and I can't even identify the exploit." She looked at Alex, her eyes wide with a desperate fear he rarely saw in her. Years of work, gone, just like that. The immense pressure of their startup's very existence weighed heavily on her. Alex stood beside her, outwardly calm, but an almost imperceptible tremor ran through his left hand. His mind, however, was already operating on a different plane. He saw the network not as Lena did, a series of interconnected points and firewalls, but as a living, breathing entity, a complex tapestry of energy, flows, and shifting patterns. He sensed the rhythm of the attack, its peculiar signature, a subtle discord in the symphony of data. This wasn't the clumsy work of script kiddies or even typical corporate espionage. This bore the mark of a specialist, a shadow actor, someone who understood the deep vulnerabilities of a system. He knew, with chilling certainty, that this attack wasn't random. It was a targeted hit, a direct response to Sterling's public denouncement, a final, ruthless attempt to bury Innovate Core for good. The master of the market played a dirty game, and now Alex was seeing the true depth of his malice. He looked at Lena's desperate face, her usual confidence replaced by genuine terror. He saw the looming threat, not just to his work, but to her trust, her belief in his vision. The anonymity he had meticulously cultivated for years, the protective shell he had built around his extraordinary past, suddenly felt stifling, an impediment to survival. His deeply ingrained instinct for self-preservation screamed at him to stay hidden, to find a conventional workaround, to avoid revealing the true extent of his capabilities. But the stakes were too high. The thought of letting Innovate Core die, of letting Sterling win, of seeing Lena's hope extinguished, ignited a cold, unwavering resolve. This was it. The time for hiding was over. The dormant weaver within him, the part of him he had buried so deep, stirred, its ancient power thrumming just beneath the surface. He felt a familiar, almost forgotten surge of adrenaline, a profound clarity settling over him. "Lena," Alex said, his voice unusually low, devoid of its usual gentle cadence. He reached for a discarded, unidentifiable piece of hardware on the table, a complex, almost sculptural array of crystalline components and shimmering optical fibers that looked like something out of a futuristic dream. It was a prototype from his forgotten past, a small, yet incredibly powerful, quantum-linked processor he had kept as a relic. He had adapted it for Innovate Core's use, integrating it subtly into Genesis, but its true capabilities remained locked, until now. His fingers, moving with an almost otherworldly grace and speed, began a series of intricate, almost impossible gestures across its smooth, cool surface. It wasn't typing. Not exactly. It was more like playing a complex, invisible instrument, each touch a precise command, each subtle movement activating layers of dormant code. Lena watched, mesmerized, as an ethereal, almost holographic interface materialized above the device, shimmering with complex fractal patterns, the very doodles Alex had subconsciously sketched in his moments of deep thought, but now alive, dynamic, shifting with an impossible fluidity. These were not the common linear logic gates of conventional programming. This was a language of interconnectedness, of chaotic order, a direct interface to the fundamental fabric of digital reality. "The attack isn't just bypassing our firewalls, Lena," Alex murmured, his eyes fixed on the shifting patterns, his voice almost a whisper, as if speaking to the data itself. "It's mimicking our own network's core frequency, creating a resonance cascade, a digital feedback loop designed to destabilize our data at a fundamental level. It's a signature, a very specific one." He pointed to a rapidly fracturing pattern on the holographic display. "This isn't just about data deletion, it's about network dissolution. They want to erase us without a trace." He moved faster, his movements blurring. The fractal patterns on the display shifted, mirroring the attack's signature. Then, with a startling burst of light, they inverted. The chaotic patterns began to resolve themselves, to re-establish order from the digital entropy. Lena watched, utterly transfixed, as lines of code began to scroll across the main R&D server monitor, not as error messages, but as lines of defensive, then counter-offensive programming. It wasn't just blocking the attack, it was disassembling it, dissecting its origins, and then, terrifyingly, turning it back on itself. "He's creating a counter-frequency," Lena whispered, a dawning awe replacing her fear. "He's using their own attack signature against them. But how? This isn't standard encryption. This is weaving." She recognized fragments of the original code, the underlying signature of a technology she had only ever seen theoretical papers describe. A form of quantum entanglement applied to data, making it both everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. It was a level of technological advancement she hadn't thought possible. A flicker of intense, almost dangerous focus in Alex's eyes, a cold, calculated fire, revealed a hidden depth she had never before glimpsed. This wasn't the gentle, earnest founder she knew. This was something else, something far more powerful and unnerving. Suddenly, a series of rapid-fire alerts flashed across the main monitor, not their own, but external. "External breach detected," Lena exclaimed, her eyes wide. "Wait, it's not our breach, it's theirs. The attacker's network. He's not just stopping them, Alex, you're tracing them back. You're breaking through their firewalls." As Alex's fingers performed a final, elegant flourish on the device, the words "Source Identified Nexus Tech Black Ops Subserver" flashed across the screen in stark, undeniable red. And beneath it, a complex, almost artistic digital signature appeared, the stylized fractal pattern, precisely the one from Alex's old photograph, now subtly embedded within Nexus Tech's compromised network. It wasn't just a trace, it was a digital calling card, a declaration of war. Unbeknownst to Alex, in his gleaming, panoramic office high above the city, Victor Sterling received a series of frantic, panicked calls from his black hat mercenary group. His face, usually a mask of calm superiority, began to twitch. "What do you mean repelled? What do you mean traced back?" He roared into his secure phone, his voice laced with venomous disbelief. "You told me their defenses were rudimentary. You said it would be a simple ghost in the machine." The voice on the other end, usually cocky, was now trembling. "Mr. Sterling, it's impossible. We used our most advanced stealth protocols, state-sponsored level. They didn't just repel it. They reverse-engineered our attack in real time. They breached our darknet servers, the ones we thought were impenetrable, and they left a signature, a complex fractal. We've never seen anything like it. It's like a ghost in our system now. It's still there, burrowing deep. It's almost playful." Sterling slammed the phone down, a muscle throbbing violently in his jaw. The toy company, the amateur tinkerer, he had dismissed Alex with such contempt. But this wasn't the work of an amateur. This was the work of a phantom, a whisper from a past he had thought long buried. He remembered the faint rumors, years ago, of a prodigy, a reclusive genius involved in highly classified experimental AI, an individual whose projects had been abruptly shut down and whose existence had been systematically erased from all public records after a catastrophic incident involving an early, unstable AI prototype. A chilling dread seeped into him. The fractal pattern. He had seen it before, on a long-lost, highly classified report from a competitor's failed deep AI project a decade ago, a project that was mysteriously compromised and dissolved. His initial disdain for Alex transmuted into a cold, terrifying fury. This wasn't just an upstart rival. This was a dangerous, unknown entity. A ghost from a past he vaguely recognized. Someone who could unravel his own carefully constructed web of secrets. "He's not just a founder," Sterling muttered to himself, pacing his opulent office like a caged predator. "He's a threat, a very dangerous threat. He knows things. He sees things. We need to crush him, completely, before he becomes truly visible." He activated his secure line, his voice chillingly calm as he issued new directives to his black hat contacts, now with a new, terrifying urgency. This time, the objective wasn't just to cripple Innovate Core, it was to utterly destroy Alex, to silence this unforeseen variable before he could expose the true, predatory nature of Nexus Tech, and indeed, Sterling's own hidden history of acquiring technology through less than ethical means. The casual malice had hardened into ruthless resolve. Chapter 4. The Gauntlet. The Ultimate Test. The invitation arrived with a flourish of corporate elegance, a heavy cardstock envelope embossed with the gleaming Nexus Tech logo. It was for the inaugural Future Forward Innovation Showcase, a new high-profile event ostensibly designed to celebrate technological advancement and foster collaboration across the industry. The accompanying press releases lauded Victor Sterling as a visionary, a magnanimous leader opening his empire's doors to the next generation of innovators. But Alex, holding the card in his hand, felt a cold, calculating dread. He knew Sterling. He knew the true purpose behind this grand spectacle. This wasn't a celebration. It was a public execution, and Innovate Core was meant to be the sacrificial lamb. The event, Sterling had ensured, would take place in the very same Grand Convention Center where he had first publicly mocked Alex's toy business, where the echoes of his derisive laughter still seemed to linger in the vast, echoing halls. The main stage, now even more colossal and intimidating, dominated the central arena, its massive LED screens cycling through Nexus Tech's triumphant branding. This was to be the symbolic battleground, a meticulously chosen arena for Alex's final, public humiliation. Sterling, through his immense influence and insidious network, had made Alex's attendance mandatory, framing it as an opportunity for emerging talents to present to a global audience. It was a trap, meticulously laid, designed to leave no room for escape. As the day of the showcase dawned, a palpable tension settled over Alex's now bustling, though still modest, Innovate Core offices. The initial shock of the cyber attack had galvanized his small team, transforming them into a tightly knit unit, fiercely loyal and relentlessly driven. Lena Petrova, her usual calm replaced by a nervous energy, double-checked their presentation files, the refined version of Genesis, ready to be unveiled. The junior cybersecurity specialist, the former intern Alex had helped, meticulously ran diagnostics on their network, ensuring every line of code was secure, every connection robust. They had worked tirelessly, driven by a shared sense of purpose and a burning desire to prove Sterling wrong. But Sterling was a master manipulator, and his reach was far more insidious than they had anticipated. As Alex and his team arrived at the convention center, a series of subtle, almost imperceptible obstacles began to materialize. Their designated loading dock was mysteriously unavailable, forcing them to lug heavy equipment across vast distances. Their pre-booked technical support liaison was suddenly ill. It was a symphony of minor inconveniences designed to fray nerves and waste precious time. Lena, her brow furrowed, tried to connect their presentation laptop to the convention center's high-speed network for a final test. The connection failed, repeatedly. "It's like the network's actively rejecting us," she muttered, frustration mounting. "Every other booth has seamless access. Ours is just dead." She tried to use her personal hotspot, but even that struggled, as if a localized jamming signal was at play. A cold dread began to creep into Alex's heart. This wasn't just bad luck. This was deliberate. Minutes before Alex's scheduled presentation slot, as he stood backstage, attempting to calm his racing heart, the final devastating blow landed. The junior specialist, his face ashen, rushed towards him, his tablet clutched in a trembling hand. "Alex! The presentation files! They're corrupted, all of them! It's not just a simple error, it's a deep-level data scramble, and our backup drives are showing the same corruption. It's like a timed bomb went off inside our data just now." Alex stared at the screen, a sick feeling twisting in his gut. Years of work, meticulously crafted slides, dynamic data visualizations, all reduced to meaningless gibberish. This was Sterling's true genius, not in innovation, but in sabotage. He had ensured Alex would have no visual aids, no prepared script, nothing but his voice and the immense pressure of the moment. He was utterly isolated, stripped of all conventional support. He was to face the lion's den, unarmed. A stage manager, a harried woman with a headset, approached him, her voice clipped. "Mr. Sharma, you're on in 2 minutes. Please head to the stage. Mr. Sterling has just announced a slight change to the schedule. Your slot has been adjusted." Alex felt a surge of cold fury. Adjusted? What does that mean? "Your presentation time has been shortened to 5 minutes, Mr. Sharma," she said, avoiding his gaze. Mr. Sterling felt it was necessary to accommodate a last-minute, very important announcement. She gestured vaguely towards the main stage, where Sterling's smug face was already visible on the giant screens, addressing the audience with an air of triumphant anticipation. 5 minutes. Barely enough time to walk to the podium, let alone deliver a compelling pitch for a complex AI, or demonstrate its capabilities without any visual aids. It was a death sentence, a public execution designed to be quick, brutal, and undeniably humiliating. Sterling wasn't just trying to make him fail. He was trying to make him look utterly incompetent, a desperate amateur flailing in the spotlight. Alex walked towards the stage, the roar of the crowd a distant mocking echo. He could feel the weight of thousands of eyes on him, a collective gaze of skepticism, curiosity, and the hungry expectation of a public spectacle. He saw Sterling in the front row, a predatory smirk playing on his lips, his eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction. Lena and the junior specialist stood at the back, their faces etched with despair, powerless to help. Alex was utterly alone, facing a skeptical, hostile crowd, a corrupted presentation, a crippled network, and a ticking clock. The air grew thick with anticipation, the silence before the storm. This was it, the ultimate test. He had to prove not just Innovate Core's worth, but his own, against the overwhelming, calculated might of Victor Sterling. The stage, once a symbol of opportunity, had become a gauntlet. And Alex, the quiet weaver, had to face it, stripped bare, with only his mind and his hidden power as his weapons. The invitation arrived with a flourish of corporate elegance, a heavy cardstock envelope embossed with the gleaming Nexus Tech logo, its metallic sheen catching the light like a predatory eye. It was for the inaugural Future Forward Innovation Showcase, a new high-profile event ostensibly designed to celebrate technological advancement and foster collaboration across the industry. The accompanying press releases, crafted with Sterling's signature blend of bombast and self-aggrandizement, lauded Victor Sterling as a visionary, a magnanimous leader opening his empire's doors to the next generation of innovators. He was portrayed as a benevolent titan, extending a hand to the very startups he so often crushed beneath his heel. But Alex, holding the thick card in his hand, felt a cold, calculating dread settle deep in his gut. He knew Sterling. He knew the true purpose behind this grand spectacle. This wasn't a celebration. It was a public execution, meticulously planned, and Innovate Core was meant to be the sacrificial lamb, offered up for the entertainment of the tech elite. The event Sterling had ensured with his vast network of influence would take place in the very same Grand Convention Center where he had first publicly mocked Alex's toy business, where the echoes of his derisive laughter still seemed to linger in the vast, echoing halls. The main stage, now even more colossal and intimidating than before, dominated the central arena, its massive LED screens cycling through Nexus Tech's triumphant branding, a constant reminder of their omnipresence. This was to be the symbolic battleground, a meticulously chosen arena for Alex's final public humiliation. Sterling, through his immense power and insidious connections within the industry, had made Alex's attendance mandatory, framing it as an unmissable opportunity for emerging talents to present to a global audience. It was a trap, meticulously laid, designed to leave no room for escape, no quiet retreat into the shadows. Alex had to be there to be seen and to be broken. As the day of the showcase dawned, a palpable tension, thick and suffocating, settled over Alex's now bustling, though still modest, Innovate Core offices. The initial shock of the cyber attack, the brazen attempt to erase their very existence, had galvanized his small team, transforming them from a group of disparate talents into a tightly knit unit, fiercely loyal and relentlessly driven. Lena Petrova, her usual calm professionalism, now tinged with a nervous energy she couldn't quite mask, meticulously double-checked their presentation files. These weren't just slides. They were the culmination of years of work, the refined, elegant demonstration of Genesis, ready to be unveiled to the world. The junior cybersecurity specialist, the former intern Alex had helped, his youthful exuberance tempered by a newfound seriousness, meticulously ran diagnostics on their network, ensuring every line of code was secure, every connection robust. They had worked tirelessly, fueled by a shared sense of purpose and a burning desire to prove Sterling wrong, to show the world that true innovation could blossom even in the humblest of environments. But Sterling was a master manipulator, a grand orchestrator of corporate warfare, and his reach was far more insidious than they had anticipated. From the moment Alex and his team arrived at the convention center, a series of subtle, almost imperceptible obstacles began to materialize, each one a tiny, calculated cut. Their designated loading dock was mysteriously unavailable, forcing them to lug heavy equipment, including their specialized demo hardware, across vast distances of polished concrete, drawing curious, sometimes pitying glances. Their pre-booked technical support liaison was suddenly ill, replaced by an unhelpful, indifferent junior staff member who seemed more interested in his phone than their urgent needs. It was a symphony of minor inconveniences, each designed to fray nerves, waste precious time, and subtly undermine their confidence. Lena, her brow furrowed with growing concern, tried repeatedly to connect their presentation laptop to the convention center's high-speed network for a final, crucial test. The connection failed, repeatedly. "It's like the network's actively rejecting us," she muttered, her voice tight with mounting frustration, her fingers flying across the keyboard in a desperate attempt to troubleshoot. "Every other booth, even the smallest ones, has seamless access. Ours is just dead. A complete blackout." She tried to use her personal hotspot, but even that struggled, the signal flickering weakly, as if a localized jamming signal was at play. A silent, invisible assault on their connectivity. A cold dread, a familiar sensation from his past, began to creep into Alex's heart. This wasn't just bad luck. This was deliberate. This was Sterling's signature. A precise, almost elegant form of digital strangulation. As the clock ticked relentlessly towards Alex's scheduled presentation slot, the atmosphere backstage became a whirlwind of frantic activity. Other presenters, sleek and confident, glided past, their teams bustling around them. Alex stood apart, an island of quiet intensity, attempting to calm his racing heart, to focus his mind on the monumental task ahead. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to visualize the flow of data, to mentally prepare for the demonstration of Genesis. It was then that the final devastating blow landed, delivered with surgical precision. The junior specialist, his youthful face ashen, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief, rushed towards Alex, his tablet clutched in a trembling hand. "Alex, the presentation files, they're corrupted, all of them. It's not just a simple error. It's a deep-level data scramble, a complete cryptographic meltdown. And our backup drives are showing the exact same corruption. It's like a timed bomb went off inside our data just now, synchronized to our arrival." He held up the tablet, displaying a screen full of indecipherable characters, a digital graveyard of their meticulously prepared work. Alex stared at the screen, a sick, hollow feeling twisting in his gut. Years of work, meticulously crafted slides, dynamic data visualizations, compelling case studies, all reduced to meaningless gibberish, utterly unusable. This was Sterling's true genius, not in innovation, but in ruthless, preemptive sabotage. He had ensured Alex would have no visual aids, no prepared script, nothing but his voice and the immense, crushing pressure of the moment. He was utterly isolated, stripped of all conventional support, left naked before the public eye. He was to face the lion's den, unarmed, his hands tied behind his back. A stage manager, a harried woman with a headset perpetually askew, approached him, her voice clipped and devoid of warmth. "Mr. Sharma, you're on in 90 seconds. Please head to the stage. Mr. Sterling has just announced a slight change to the schedule. Your slot has been adjusted." She offered a thin, apologetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. Alex felt a surge of cold fury, a familiar, almost primal rage that had been dormant for years. "Adjusted? What does that mean?" he asked, his voice low, deceptively calm. "Your presentation time has been shortened to a mere 5 minutes, Mr. Sharma," she said, avoiding his gaze, her eyes fixed on some point over his shoulder. "Mr. Sterling felt it was necessary to accommodate a last-minute, very important announcement regarding Nexus Tech's Q4 projections. I'm sure you understand." She gestured vaguely towards the main stage, where Sterling's smug, triumphant face was already visible on the giant screens, addressing the early birds of the audience with an air of profound, self-congratulatory anticipation. 5 minutes. Barely enough time to walk to the podium, acknowledge the audience, and introduce himself, let alone deliver a compelling pitch for a complex AI, or demonstrate its intricate capabilities without any visual aids. It was a death sentence, a public execution designed to be quick, brutal, and undeniably humiliating. Sterling wasn't just trying to make him fail, he was trying to make him look utterly incompetent, a desperate amateur flailing hopelessly in the blinding glare of the spotlight. He wanted Alex to be a laughingstock, a cautionary tale. Alex walked towards the stage, the roar of the crowd, now swelling with the arrival of more attendees, a distant, mocking echo. He could feel the weight of thousands of eyes on him, a collective gaze of skepticism, curiosity, and the hungry expectation of a public spectacle. He saw Sterling in the front row, seated comfortably, a predatory smirk playing on his lips, his eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction, already savoring the impending disaster. Lena and the junior specialist stood at the back of the hall, their faces etched with despair, their hands clenched into helpless fists, powerless to help. Alex was utterly alone, facing a skeptical, potentially hostile crowd, a corrupted presentation, a crippled network, and a ticking clock that threatened to run out before he could even begin. The air grew thick with anticipation, the suffocating silence before the storm. This was it, the ultimate test. He had to prove not just Innovate Core's worth, but his own, against the overwhelming calculated might of Victor Sterling, against the very forces that had once driven him into the shadows. The stage, once a symbol of opportunity, had become a gauntlet. And Alex, the quiet weaver, had to face it, stripped bare, with only his mind and his hidden power as his weapons. The true battle was about to begin. The stage lights, harsh and unforgiving, beat down on Alex as he stepped into the searing glare. The vast auditorium, packed to capacity, seemed to hold its breath. Thousands of eyes, a glittering mosaic of curiosity, skepticism, and predatory anticipation, fixated on him. Victor Sterling, seated in the front row, exuded an almost palpable aura of triumphant malice, a thin, cruel smile playing on his lips, his eyes gleaming with the certainty of Alex's impending public meltdown. He envisioned Alex, fumbling for words, sweating under the pressure, utterly failing to deliver anything coherent without his corrupted slides. The journalists, their pens poised, cameras ready, were hungry for the spectacle of a startup's dramatic implosion. Lena and his small team, helpless in the back, watched with bated breath, their faces etched with a desperate hope mixed with profound despair. But within Alex, the initial jolt of dread had swiftly dissolved, replaced by a surge of defiant clarity, cold and sharp as a surgeon's blade. The fear, though still a tight knot in his stomach, was now a distant hum, overridden by the thunderous roar of purpose. This wasn't just Sterling's petty attempt at exposure. This was his stage. They had brought him into the light, into this grand, symbolic arena of his humiliation, and now, in this unforgiving glare, he would expose them all. The ghost of the Weaver, long suppressed, was no longer a ghost. It was a living, breathing force, poised for action, ready to manifest its intricate, unseen power. His eyes, usually quiet and thoughtful, lifted. They swept across the room, taking in every detail with an almost superhuman precision. The subtle, almost imperceptible twitch in Sterling's left eye, a sign of his underlying tension beneath the arrogant facade, the expectant, almost gleeful faces of the press, the bewildered, impatient expressions of the venture capitalists, the approaching heavy footsteps of a security guard, subtly positioned by Sterling as a failsafe. His mind, racing at an astonishing, impossible speed, processed countless variables: the precise frequency of the convention center's display network, the subtle vulnerabilities he had detected in the room's ambient Wi-Fi, the exact timing needed for maximum impact, the optimal projection of data streams. All in a fraction of a second, the complex doodles he held in his mind, the intricate fractals that represented the true nature of information, began to coalesce into a singular, devastating visual narrative. "Mr. Sharma," a disembodied voice boomed from the overhead speakers, its tone dripping with thinly veiled condescension, undoubtedly orchestrated by Sterling. "You have precisely 5 minutes. We look forward to your presentation." A dry, dismissive chuckle rippled through the front rows. As the timer on the massive LED screen behind him began its relentless countdown, Alex remained outwardly calm, his composure unshakable. His right hand subtly, almost imperceptibly, brushed against the sleek, cool casing of his custom-built quantum data injector, disguised as an oversized smartwatch, a relic from his past, hidden beneath the cuff of his sleeve. It was his lifeline, his final weapon, painstakingly re-engineered and charged for this very moment. His fingers, with a dexterity born of years of covert operations and an almost innate connection to technology, began a series of incredibly rapid, precise micro-taps on the device's concealed interface. The device, designed for deep network integration and data manipulation, hummed to life, its hidden blue light pulsing with a faint, urgent glow, visible only to him. Simultaneously, on the main projection screen behind Alex, which moments ago had displayed only the mocking countdown timer, a subtle distortion began. The Nexus Tech logo, prominently displayed, shimmered, then rippled violently, like water disturbed by an unseen force. The crisp edges of the clock numbers began to visibly undulate, their perfectly straight lines bending and warping into grotesque, impossible curves. A ripple of murmuring confusion spread through the audience. Sterling, still smug, glanced briefly at the screen, dismissing it as a minor technical glitch, his focus still on Alex, anticipating his collapse. But then, the data on the screen completely shattered. Not into random noise, but into a series of stark, undeniable truths, overlaid with the elegance of Alex's unique visualization, woven from the real-time public market data he was surreptitiously accessing. In place of the countdown timer, raw, unadulterated figures flashed across the screen. NXT stock value, imminent plummet. Then, a complex web of transactions, rendered as a swirling, predatory vortex, appeared, tracing hidden offshore accounts, subsidiary shell companies, linked to Nexus Tech Executive Board, investor fraud identified. Then, a chilling series of dates and locations, pinpointing illegal environmental dumping sites tied to Nexus Tech's most profitable industrial ventures, rendered as a vibrant, diseased map spreading like a blight. Project Chimera, unauthorized toxic waste disposal, EPA violations. The murmurs in the audience exploded into a deafening uproar. Sterling, his face suddenly ashen, finally turned, saw the horrifying truth splashed across the screen, his jaw going slack. The color drained from his face, replaced by a sickly green hue. He lunged for the podium, his perfectly manicured hand fumbling desperately for an off switch, his composure shattering like fragile glass. "What is this? Cut the feed! Cut the feed!" he roared, his voice cracking with raw panic, his carefully constructed facade collapsing in a spectacular display of fear. But Alex was one step ahead. His nimble fingers, a blur of motion that defied the eye, executed a final, complex sequence of taps on the quantum data injector. With a soft, almost inaudible click, the device connected seamlessly to the entire auditorium's integrated display network. The main screen and every single digital display screen, personal tablet, and even the smartwatches of the attendees simultaneously switched to a single devastating image. It was a live, real-time projection of the global stock market, zoomed in on two specific tickers. One showed Nexus Tech, NXT, whose value had begun a rapid, inexplicable decline just seconds ago, a steep, red plummet that defied all conventional market logic. The other, a small, virtually unknown ticker, showed Innovate Core, INVC, which was beginning a breathtaking vertical surge, its green line shooting upwards like a rocket. This wasn't just a revelation of past fraud. It was a real-time, undeniable prediction coming true. As the audience watched, mesmerized and horrified, the stock market, reacting to this profound public display of accurate predictive AI, began to crash for Nexus Tech. The sudden visible drop in NXT shares, triggered by panicked selling from investors witnessing the live demonstration of Genesis's predictive power, created a ripple effect, transforming Alex's quiet exposition into an immediate, devastating financial consequence for Sterling's empire. This was the bated breath moment, the brief second where the audience held its collective breath. Sterling, his face contorted with rage and terror, began screaming incoherently. For a split second, it almost seemed too chaotic, too unbelievable. But then, as the numbers continued their relentless, undeniable march, as the green line of INVC soared higher and higher while NXT plunged into freefall, the truth became irrefutable. The audience's reaction was a visceral, overwhelming wave. Initial skepticism transformed into stunned bewilderment. Then, gasps of pure shock erupted as the market indicators confirmed Alex's silent, immediate predictions. Journalists, sensing blood in the water, began snapping photos furiously, their camera flashes strobing, illuminating the horrified, disbelieving faces of executives and shareholders. Whispers of insider trading, market manipulation, and corporate espionage turned into shouts. The very master of the market was utterly blindsided, publicly debunked by a man he called a toy maker, a tinkerer. The irony was so immense, so devastating, it was almost poetic. Lena Petrova, standing in the back, watched the screen, her mouth agape. The junior specialist beside her let out a whoop of triumph, tears streaming down his face. They saw the doodle, Alex's signature fractal, subtly woven into the live market feed, an almost invisible watermark of his genius. They finally understood the full extent of his hidden power, the weaving he had spoken of. Sterling stumbled back from the podium, his face ashen, his body trembling uncontrollably, his empire crumbling around him in real time. He tried to speak, but only a choked gurgle escaped his lips. The security guards, initially moving towards Alex, now hesitated, their eyes wide with confusion, looking between the plummeting stock on the screen and the disgraced CEO. Alex, having delivered his final crushing blow, calmly extracted the quantum data injector, its blue light fading as its task was complete. He met Sterling's horrified gaze, his eyes holding a silent, profound understanding of his petty prejudice and ruthless ambition, now replaced by a quiet, almost melancholic satisfaction. He had chosen his moment, taken his stage, and delivered justice with a precision that was both terrifying and beautiful. The room descended into controlled chaos, the roar of the crowd, the shouts of the press, the frantic calls for arrests, all blending into a symphony of vindication. Alex Sharma, the unseen visionary, had finally emerged from the shadows, shattering not just a corporate conspiracy, but the very notion of who could wield true power and how the market itself could be forced to reveal the truth. The aftermath of Alex Sharma's astonishing revelation at the Future Forward Innovation Showcase was not merely a scandal. It was an earthquake that reshaped the very landscape of the tech industry, sending seismic tremors through global financial markets. The live, undeniable proof of Nexus Tech's fraudulent activities, the brazen market manipulation, the insidious corporate espionage, the shocking environmental crimes, broadcast simultaneously across every screen in the convention center and amplified by a global media frenzy, led to a rapid, catastrophic implosion. Victor Sterling, the imperious CEO who had reveled in public humiliation and relished destroying others, now reaped a bitter harvest of his own making. His desperate, futile attempts to silence the feed, his flailing rage at the unraveling of his meticulously constructed lies, only cemented the damning evidence, his composure shattering like fragile glass, revealing the true venal monster beneath the polished facade. Within hours, the market reacted with brutal, unforgiving efficiency. Nexus Tech's stock plummeted, not in a gentle decline, but a freefall so precipitous it triggered circuit breakers on exchanges worldwide, a cascading collapse that wiped out billions of dollars in market capitalization and sent shockwaves through the global economy. This unprecedented financial meltdown immediately triggered multiple, simultaneous investigations across continents. Regulatory authorities, spurred by the irrefutable evidence displayed by Genesis and the overwhelming public outcry, descended upon Nexus Tech like a swarm of angry hornets. Charges mounted swiftly. Rampant market manipulation through shell corporations, egregious corporate espionage. The cyber attack on Innovate Core was definitively traced back to Sterling's private security contractors, paid through untraceable dark web channels, and a litany of environmental crimes related to Project Chimera's illicit, decades-long toxic waste disposal. Sterling, stripped of his power, his immense wealth, and his carefully constructed persona of infallible genius, was arrested live on television, his face a mask of shock, utter defeat, and a chilling, bewildered rage. He faced not just the full force of the law, but the scathing, unforgiving judgment of a public outraged by his unchecked avarice and casual cruelty. His meticulously built empire, once a seemingly unshakable monolith, dissolved into dust, its reputation forever tarnished, his name permanently synonymous with corporate malfeasance. The master of the market was now a mere prisoner of his own hubris, destined for a life behind bars, a fate perfectly tailored to the colossal scale of his crimes. Justice, slow but inevitable, had arrived. While there wasn't a Type B antagonist in the traditional sense, a single individual who simply misunderstood Alex, the very conventional wisdom of the market itself, the established financial institutions, and the deeply entrenched system that had consistently dismissed Alex and elevated Sterling, was forced into a profound public reckoning. The initial venture capitalist group that had pulled out, Aurora Capital, released a highly publicized, deeply contrite public statement. Their senior partner, Eleanor Vance, a formidable woman known for her sharp intellect and even sharper business acumen, and previously one of the most vocal proponents of pulling out of the Innovate Core deal, held a widely televised press conference. Her face, usually composed and unyielding, was now drawn with genuine humility and regret. "We made a grave, indefensible error in judgment," she admitted, her voice somber, every word carefully chosen to convey sincerity. "We allowed short-term market anxieties, the misleading narratives, and the influence of established players like Mr. Sterling to blind us to true innovation, and more importantly, to integrity. Mr. Sharma and InnovateCore represent the future of ethical technology, a paradigm shift, and we are deeply regretful for our profound misjudgment. This unprecedented public apology, coupled with the immediate reversal of their withdrawal and an offer of significantly increased unconditional funding, symbolize the market's repentance, a necessary albeit reluctant acknowledgement of its own fallibility and a desperate public attempt to rectify its costly misstep." Other influential investors and rival tech CEOs, once skeptical or outright dismissive, now clamored to align themselves with InnovateCore, sending its valuations skyrocketing beyond Alex's wildest dreams, establishing it as the new gold standard for ethical, predictive AI. For Alex, however, the new calm was not the quiet solitude he had once embraced in his garage, nor the frenetic, anxious energy of a struggling startup. It was a profound and purposeful equilibrium, a sense of having finally found his true place in the world. He was no longer the unseen genius, the phantom of the garage. He was the vindicated visionary, the architect of a new technological paradigm, and an unlikely hero whose story, a beacon of courage and truth, resonated across the globe. InnovateCore became an overnight sensation, attracting unprecedented investment and, more importantly, the most brilliant and ethically driven minds in the field of artificial intelligence. Offers to acquire his company, to merge with tech behemoths, to lead groundbreaking national and international AI initiatives, poured in from every corner of the world. But Alex, ever true to his core principles and his unwavering commitment to ethical development, politely declined them all. He chose to keep InnovateCore fiercely independent, retaining full control over its direction and, crucially, its ethical compass. This ensured that Genesis, his creation, would always serve humanity, not just corporate greed. His once cramped garage, the crucible of his quiet genius, was now meticulously preserved. It was designated a historical site, a humble shrine to innovation and perseverance, drawing aspiring entrepreneurs and curious visitors from around the world. InnovateCore itself moved into a sleek, expansive new headquarters, a marvel of modern architecture, its design reflecting Alex's core philosophy, transparent glass walls symbolizing openness and accountability, vast collaborative spaces fostering genuine connection and interdisciplinary ideation, and state-of-the-art labs dedicated to pure, uninhibited research and ethical development. Yet, despite the soaring success and the undeniable prestige, Alex retained his grounded nature. He eschewed the flashy corporate events, the endless galas, and the trappings of typical CEO excess, remaining steadfastly focused on the core purpose of Genesis, to use predictive analytics for the greater good, not just for profit. Under his quiet yet immensely powerful leadership, InnovateCore rapidly began to develop groundbreaking applications for complex global challenges. Advanced climate modeling to predict and mitigate environmental crises, sophisticated algorithms for real-time disaster prediction and optimized humanitarian logistics, and revolutionary AI-powered medical diagnostics designed to bring advanced healthcare to underserved areas worldwide. His company's valuation soared, granting him immense resources, but these were viewed as tools to amplify his impact, to accelerate the positive change he envisioned, not merely as an accumulation of personal wealth. One serene evening, as the city lights began to twinkle outside the panoramic window of their new, spacious executive office, Alex and Lena Petrova shared a quiet, reflective conversation. The air was filled with the soft hum of new, efficient servers and the gentle murmur of their bustling team in the open-plan offices beyond. Lena, now InnovateCore's revered chief technology officer, her face alight with pride and a newfound confidence that had blossomed under Alex's tutelage, looked at him with an awe that had only deepened over time. The once desperate programmer now commanded a team of hundreds, yet she still saw Alex as the quiet mentor who had shown her the true meaning of innovation and integrity. "Alex," she began, her voice soft, filled with a mixture of reverence and lingering curiosity. "What you did, what you are, I still don't fully understand it. That digital weaving you performed on stage, it was beyond anything I've ever seen, or even read about in theoretical physics journals. You always spoke of seeing patterns, but this was something else entirely. Her gaze drifted to his old, tarnished photograph, now displayed prominently on his desk in a place of honor, the fractal symbol on the lab coat more clearly visible in the better light of their new office. That symbol, it's the exact same one you embedded on Nexus Tech's server, isn't it? The one on your old photo? Alex looked at the photograph, a faint, melancholic smile touching his lips, a rare, almost vulnerable glimpse into a carefully guarded past. He traced the complex lines of the fractal with his finger. "It is," he confirmed, his voice almost a whisper, laden with years of unspoken history. "Genesis, the AI, it's an extension of that, of a time when I worked on very different projects, highly classified, experimental." His mind drifted back to hushed, sterile labs, to the exhilarating, terrifying pursuit of knowledge at the very edge of human comprehension. We were exploring the fundamental weaving of reality itself, how information flows at a quantum level, how patterns underpin everything, from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy. I learned to read those patterns, to interact with them, to influence them directly, not just observe. He paused, choosing his words with immense care, revealing fragments of a truth he had long kept locked away. It was powerful, unfathomably powerful, too powerful perhaps. It led to unforeseen complications, disasters. It spiraled beyond control, and I saw firsthand how such power, unchecked, could destroy. I swore I'd never use it for destruction again, never wield it in anger. I retreated, sought anonymity, buried myself in the quiet pursuit of beneficial applications. I wanted to use it only for creation, for understanding, for good, but I knew I could only do so if I was truly invisible. Lena nodded slowly, a profound understanding replacing some of her questions, connecting the pieces of Alex's enigmatic past to his present. "So, when Sterling attacked, when he threatened to destroy everything you were building, everything you believed in, you had to unbury it. You had to reveal your true self." "I had to," Alex affirmed, his gaze distant, revisiting old ghosts but with a new sense of peace. "It was the only way to fight back, to protect what we're creating, to safeguard the potential of Genesis, to expose the truth, no matter the personal cost. I always believed that true progress, true innovation, must be built on integrity. And sometimes, Lena, to protect that integrity, to ensure that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, you have to reveal the unseen, even if it means exposing parts of yourself you'd rather keep hidden." He turned to her, his eyes warm with a profound gratitude and a shared vision. "You believed in me, Lena, even when I was just a voice in a cluttered garage, a phantom to the world. You saw the potential. And now, together, we can truly build something meaningful, something ethical, a new future for tech, built on truth." Lena smiled, a genuine, heartfelt expression, reflecting the quiet triumph of their journey. "We're just getting started, Alex. The world needs more weavers like you." Their conversation was a quiet affirmation of a shared journey, a recognition that the most profound value often lies in the most unexpected places, in the hands of the seemingly ordinary, driven by extraordinary purpose. Alex Sharma, the former phantom genius, had not just found his rightful place. He had forged a new path for an entire industry, emerging from the shadows as a beacon of integrity and an indispensable architect of a new, more transparent future for technology, a future built on the unshakable foundation of the truth he had meticulously revealed. And in that, Alex found his ultimate, enduring purpose, a new calm, far richer and more fulfilling than any solitude he had ever known. The skyline of the city had transformed, a shimmering testament to progress, and at its heart stood the gleaming, sapphire-hued spire of the Innovate Core headquarters. It was a marvel of sustainable architecture, designed with sweeping glass facades that embraced natural light and a complex system of internal gardens that breathed life into every floor. From his top-floor office, Alex Sharma looked out, not just at the sprawling urban landscape, but at the future he had quietly, meticulously, helped to build. The relentless hum of his early garage lab had been replaced by the soft, efficient murmur of a global powerhouse, yet the core principles remained unchanged. He was no longer just a founder. He was a revered figure, known globally for his integrity, his quiet brilliance, and his unwavering commitment to ethical innovation. His name, once unknown, was now synonymous with trust in the often turbulent world of technology. His life, once a stark tableau of isolation and struggle, was now vibrant, rich with purpose and genuine connection. He still preferred moments of quiet contemplation, often gazing out at the city lights, the vibrant pulse of human activity below. But he was no longer alone. He had built a family, not of blood, but of shared vision. Lena Petrova, now an indispensable partner and friend, led InnovateCore's vast R&D division, her brilliant mind thriving in an environment that celebrated true innovation. The young engineering student, Sarah Chen, whose final project Alex had anonymously saved, was now a senior AI architect at InnovateCore, her robotics arm prototypes revolutionizing prosthetics. She often stopped by Alex's office, a cup of exotic tea in hand, their conversations a comfortable blend of cutting-edge tech and shared humanity. The junior cybersecurity specialist, the former intern, was now head of global security, his fierce loyalty and sharp intellect protecting InnovateCore's vast digital infrastructure from countless threats. InnovateCore itself had become a global leader in ethical AI. Genesis, his predictive analytics engine, once deemed a child's toy, was now a cornerstone of critical humanitarian efforts worldwide. Its algorithms accurately predicted climate shifts, allowing governments to prepare for extreme weather events and implement proactive conservation strategies. It optimized disaster relief efforts, getting aid to affected areas with unprecedented speed and efficiency. In the realm of healthcare, Genesis powered diagnostic tools that delivered early, accurate disease detection to remote, underserved communities, bridging vast gaps in medical access. Alex had ensured that InnovateCore's technology was always a force for good, a tool for empowerment, not exploitation. True to his vision of paying it forward, Alex established the Weaver Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to fostering unconventional talent. Funded by a significant portion of InnovateCore's burgeoning profits, the foundation sought out young, struggling inventors and engineers, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds, who showed raw, unpolished brilliance. Alex personally mentored a select few, teaching them not just the intricate nuances of advanced technology, but the profound importance of ethical innovation, resilience, and perseverance in the face of skepticism. He often shared the story of his garage, of Sterling's insults, and of the hidden power of unseen potential. The symbol from his old photograph, the complex fractal, now universally recognized as InnovateCore's secondary logo, became the Weaver Foundation's official emblem, representing interconnectedness, the hidden patterns of reality, and the boundless potential residing in every individual, waiting to be unleashed. His old garage, the very crucible where InnovateCore was born, had been meticulously preserved and transformed into a public museum, a tribute to humble beginnings and the power of a single idea. Visitors, from wide-eyed children to seasoned tech veterans, walked through its clutter-turned history, inspired by the stark contrast between its humble origins and the global impact of the company it spawned. A small framed plaque near his old workbench read, "Here, in quiet solitude, a revolution began, not with a bang, but with the intricate weave of unseen patterns." The story ends with Alex, in a rare moment of personal reflection, standing at the precipice of his new empire. He looked out from the top floor of the InnovateCore headquarters, the city lights below mirroring the vast, intricate network of data that flowed through Genesis. A single, small, glowing drone, a prototype for a future humanitarian project designed to deliver medical supplies to remote villages, flew quietly past his window. Its soft, steady light was a beacon against the vast canvas of the night sky, symbolizing the quiet power of innovation used for good, a direct reflection of his own journey from an unseen, silent force to an indispensable architect of a better world. He smiled, a true, contented smile, the lines around his eyes now of wisdom, not just weariness. He had found his ultimate enduring purpose, not just in building technology, but in weaving a legacy of truth, integrity, and light, ensuring that courage could indeed alter destinies, and that even in the deepest darkness, light would always find a path. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies, and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss our upcoming narratives that delve into the profound human spirit and the power of unseen heroes. Thank you for joining us on this journey.